Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Paolo. Today I'm gonna do something a bit weird. This is gonna be a summary of a campaign I did in Rome Total War. I started recording some of it and then I lost the files, and I realized that at that point that the entire stream was kind of like, it made no sense. So what I decided to do is I finished my short campaign with Carthage, and it was actually a really interesting campaign for Rome Total War. I'm glad that I'm playing different factions because they really play differently. The strategy is really different, and especially with the location, it makes a whole lot of difference than playing, for example, as Greece or something else. So I played Carthage, and it was interesting enough that I thought, okay, what I can do is I have my save games. I can kind of go through them and kind of show how the campaign evolved. So basically, I'm gonna kind of imagine that I'm playing, like when I started, I didn't really have a strategy. And so when I looked, like immediately the issue is that like your territories are all over the place, right? And you actually don't start with big armies. Like the only one is on Sicily, which is good because you have both Greece and Rome. And the goal of the campaign is to kill Spain and the Scipios, and I think I have 15 regions. It's something like that. I think all the short campaigns are a combination of kill 2 factions and have 15 regions. So yeah, I kind of realized immediately there was one mistake that I made that I'll explain later, but I didn't realize something soon enough. But the first thing I realized was, okay, clearly I need to lock Sicily for myself, otherwise it's going to be a war of attrition. The thing is that it's not easy because you really, as Carthage, you have decent cavalry, you have decent late heavy troops. You have basically almost hoplites. I think it's one of the 5 temples or the 4 temples gives you basically a unit kind of like hoplites. I think they're called the Sacred Mirror or something like that. I think I can see here. But they're like super late, so I think I don't know if it even shows them here. No, you have to go under the temples. I think it's Ball. Yeah, enables training of Secret Band, which is like basically for all intents and purposes heavy hoplites. But apart from that, you don't really have like a lot of heavy infantry, especially at the beginning. And the problem is you're against Rome, which to me, it's always funny that the game counts Hastati as light infantry because they have a defense of 16, and it's like, how is that light infantry? Like, and so the issue is, you have Iberian infantry, Iberian like swordsmen, I think they're called Iberian infantry, yeah, which is it's a decent light infantry, but against Hastati 1-on-1 you're gonna lose, and so I kind of realized immediately, I'm like, okay, I have to lock Sicily, so let's start by doing that. And at the same time, I kind of, after a few turns, I realized that I was basically on Spain alone with not a gigantic settlement. So the issue is you're kind of divided, and all this space in between. There's Libya here, which the game kind of messes with you with the way, with the size of regions. Like to go from Carthage to the first Libyan settlement, I think it's like here. It's like they're really far, and you're so spread out that immediately I was like, okay, like how am I gonna move troops around? And there's a mistake that I made which wasn't kind of finding an answer to that question immediately. So that's kind of how you start. You start with one settlement in Sicily. Luckily, it's the strongest army that you have. You have mercenary hoplites, which are really good. It's like heavy infantry for all intents and purposes. These can definitely go against Hastati. And you can buy more. I think you have to cross the border here. There weren't any available at the beginning, but I think after a few turns they become available, and it's good because you really do need something like that at the beginning. And then you kind of have this settlement on Caralis, which is always it's always going to be good for trade. But apart from that, like you really cannot use it as a launching platform because again, it's pretty far from everything else. And here you're mainly going to be attacked by Libya, but in any case, so this is first turn. Immediately I realized, okay, I need to go and take either Messana or Syracuse for me, and I think what happened was that basically the Romans messed up, started sieging Syracuse the south, which is the Greek. Sorry, which is the Greek settlement. I don't know, I think that the stream might drop off every time I load a game, which is strange. So they started sieging Syracuse, so what I did is that I immediately took Messana, and I went in, and I was able to get the settlement for myself. And my idea was, okay, let them like basically kill each other, and that's gonna be my move. And it actually took a few turns, while, without me realizing it, Spain was kind of like starting to plot against me, because they come immediately for you. I think this game is very skewed toward not... Like, it feels like the AI does not treat you like an AI. The AI just treats you like a special element on the map, which is kind of a bummer. Like, I felt like Spain and Gaul were like super angry against me for no reason, and as much as I was at war with the Scipios pretty much immediately, I also felt like Rome immediately hated me, which kind of makes sense. But at the same time, this playthrough was super weird because Gaul conquered all of like France and Germany. Like, Gaul was like super strong this playthrough, and I think it was because the Julii spent time like helping the Scipios and like not focusing north, which is strange. It's not what the Julii does, so I suspect it has to do with me being Carthage. But the goal of I kind of wanted to see like how long can I resist against Rome, and I ended up finishing the campaign, spoiler. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna skip a few turns. What happens basically is the Scipios take Syracuse. Again, I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, the Scipios take Syracuse, and I'm like, okay, I need to be careful here because they can build an army, right? Plus they can send reinforcements very easily. And this is where I realized they were already too late, because this was turn 10 and you really need to start from turn 0. I realized that, actually I didn't realize even here, I think it took me like, I don't know, I think it probably started doing it seriously at around turn 20. With Carthage, you really need to have boats. So here, by the way, you see like there was a siege, and I bounced them back. It was actually at the beginning, like much like the Greek playthrough, the beginning is hard because you have to resist at the beginning and do a couple of hard battles. After that, it's more downhill. Same as here, they really throw a bunch of crap at you at the beginning, and in fact, I lost Carolis from the Julii. I just had to. When I looked at how spread out I was, it's one of the nations that starts, or like one of the cultures that you can play that starts the most spread out, I think. Because Egypt is all down here, and Egypt basically has the desert, so nobody comes bothering you. Libya is here in a corner. Spain is here. Gauls is, and Britain is up here. Gauls is up here. All Rome is together at the beginning. Greece is hard at the beginning. You need to keep Sicily, otherwise you lose it. But apart from that, Greece, you start from here, you can go up to Macedon, and you start with pretty good troops. And so really, I haven't played Parthia or any of those yet, but it was pretty scary how spread out this was, especially because you have no connection in the middle, and even if you did, it's so much. Like, this is like 8 turns to get here if you have to walk, probably 9. And so I realized that way too late, boats were gonna be my secret, which is funny because Carthage was a Phoenician settlement in the past, and it's funny because they dominated the Mediterranean exactly because of that. Like, they were masters of sailing the Mediterranean Sea, and it's funny that like the game should almost kind of give you like more boats at the beginning, because it's just the way Carthage was able to thrive. And it should also be kind of a hint of like, hey, you're gonna need these. And I ended up like winning with boats because basically, as you'll see later on, like Romans kept on sending troops, and I kept on sinking their boats, which means that you're tanking their economy because you're burning like a full stack into the ocean with no problems, and then you just repair your boats. You spend like 500 coins, and they just blew through all the money that it took them to raise all those troops, right? So yeah, I lost Sardinia to the Julii because I was like, okay, I already have the Spain at my door. Gauls, I think I was maybe I wasn't at war yet. Okay, yeah, but at some point Gauls attacks me as well. And I was like, okay, here I really need to focus my attention only somewhere. And thank God that Libya wasn't aggressive at the beginning, because Libya at some point starts attacking me, and because they had nobody else to attack because I had closed them off here, they just kept throwing everything they had at me, which Libya is not super strong, so that wasn't too much of a problem. So let's see, let's skip forward maybe a bit. Okay, so what happened here is I went around and started plopping towers with my general because I realized I need to see them coming, and I realized that to hold Spain I had to pump a bunch of troops in here. So I obviously, as you can see, I bought a bunch of mercenaries. You get Spanish. I actually don't like the javelin throwers too much. The slingers are phenomenal. Slingers are really good, and Balearic slingers are, I think, the best because they have an incredible range, which is really helps. Because other problem that I discovered later is Carthage has, I think, no archers whatsoever. I think at all, even like at level 4. Yeah, you have no archers. You can make your own slingers, which are way less strong. You have literally 66% range over the Balearic slingers. So I think Palma, like, I think there were always slingers available here, I think. Yeah, they were always available to recruit, I think. And so I kept on, like, kind of recruiting them here and just sending them around toward the end of the game around my settlements. But basically here I'm surrounded by Spain, and I think Gaul now is at war. No, not yet. Okay. And here what I did was basically I was able to throw the Scipios out of the island, and I was able to hold Sicily, which is super important. And I realized only the importance later, and the reason is owning Sicily really allowed me to keep control of kind of like you're in the center of like bothering Rome. And so, like I said, I was able to start producing boats. I think I am like building a port here. I think I built it pretty soon after turn 15. And what turn is this, like 15 or 14? Okay. And basically having the boats is, I think, what saved me. And so my goal was, okay, let me get Sardinia back so that I control this entire triangle, right? Like from Carthage to Sardinia to Sicily. And I think it actually took me a while to get it back. My other goal was, okay, I kind of stabilize Sicily. I can build an economy and I can build troops here. How do I now take care of Spain? And that actually took most of the playthrough. Just because, again, the distance, like even a boat, like a fast boat takes it 1, 2, 3, I think 4 or 5 turns to reach Cordoba. And that's a lot. Like 5 turns to reinforce, it's a lot. It means you need to be ready. Like 5 turns, you'll hold in a siege, but not well. Let's do this. The campaign was very interesting in the beginning because so in the middle, I thought I almost was not gonna make it, and the reason is I think Carthage particularly suffers because after not almost immediately, I think a level 2 of either 2 or 3, I think, of the armory, which you're able to do in Carthage relatively soon, you're able to make spearmen, which are way better than the infantry, just because, as you can see, the attack is the same, but the defense is that much higher. It's pretty crazy. Like, spearmen can hold any fire from Roman archers, not without any problem, but way better than the Iberian infantry can. But you kind of don't get really any better unit apart from that. Like, it's kind of all that there is. Even like you get, I think, what are these called? Pony infantry, which is basically like a heavier spearman, but it's not it's not that much different. The attack and the morale is better, but not by that much. Especially given that it's a tier 4. And cavalry, the only thing that is cool is that you get elephants, but elephants are weird to use. Like, they're strong, but they're weird to use. And I immediately also realized that, yeah, I have elephants both here and here, so I kind of had these 2 settlements making elephants for the rest of the kind of the armies. And this is where I realized that I really needed more ports. I think it was around turn 20. So yeah, that I was like, okay, I need even more. And that's when I started getting small like groups of 3 or 4 boats that started gaining a bunch of experience. And I basically ended up the campaign with some of these that were like a stack of 5, and they all had like gold tier experience because they had been sinking so much. And the more you sink, it's kind of like a vicious cycle of the more you sink, the more your enemy tries to rebuild their boats and send them over, and the more you are gaining experience, so the faster you sink them. I still think there's a big problem with the way boat warfare works in this game, where basically you have to hit them multiple times and they can escape. And what's weird is that they can keep on escaping, which to me makes no sense. To me, it's like, okay, I hit you once, you run. If I catch up to you, you shouldn't be able to run again. Instead, they can, which made it really hard because sometimes what would happen is that the Scipios, I would hit them here, they would retreat here and they were able to save their army. Or even worse, they would retreat close to Sardinia and they were able to then maybe drop them off. Which is kind of like, they're basically gaining free movement, right? If you can catch up to them, they shouldn't be able to move, because otherwise that's just a free chance to leave. The other thing that I realized is you don't get to communicate with a lot of the east and a lot of the north as Carthage, so I really didn't have a lot of like trade rights. I only got my diplomats out really late, and that I think bit my economy in the ass at the beginning. And because at the beginning, both at the beginning and toward the end, when you're and toward the middle, where your economy is still not super strong as Carthage, maintaining boats is super expensive. Like I think one stack of boat is like 100 to maintain. That's not little if you think that you have to have like a few here, and there's pirates all around the south of Italy, which sucks because pirates is basically this like external faction that randomly attacks whoever is closest. And I needed the boats to keep the Romans at bay, but having pirates, sometimes you have a stack of like 2-3 pirates that kept on bothering me, that would damage my boats, and that would not allow me to really risk them and leave them here. So I had to repair them, which meant sometimes the Scipios were able to land in Sicily. But yeah, here I don't think, like, all I'm doing is like I'm kind of like keeping like these as filled out as possible, but it's not good troops. Like, these are not gonna, they're gonna survive if you play well against like Spain, but they're gonna struggle. Like you're gonna struggle. And the like Cordoba starts like super small. Cordoba starts at, I think, 1,000 people, something like that, and you have nothing that you can build. So like right now, even after turn 20, I was struggling to build up the military. And again, the issue being is you're spread out so far that you can't leave something behind and then concentrate only on one side, that basically you kind of just don't have enough money at the beginning. Because I can't easily say, oh, you know, I'll just do like military in Carthage and send it over. It's like it takes 8 turns. Like it takes almost half, well, not 8, it would take like 5, but it takes basically 25% of how long I've played by now, by turn 20, to just send one army there, which is crazy, right? So yeah, it's funny because it was an interesting game toward the beginning and the middle. It was pretty stable. Like I kind of couldn't move past it. A lot of it was, that's why I'm going to skip actually 20 turns now, 30. And the reason for me skipping so much is because, as you'll see, things don't change for most of the playthrough, because you're kind of stuck. You can't really move. Like, you know, here I'm like, okay, I'm keeping these towns full, which obviously it is kind of a waste. At the same time, what you're not seeing between the turns is like Scipios just landing on me with like not full stack armies, but almost, because as you can see right now, they only have 1 settlement. That's because they keep on spending all their money on you, and the Brutii are also at war with me, including with the Julii. So all the Romans are at war with me, which makes sense. But the problem is all of them are concentrating on me, which doesn't make sense. I had a much easier time with Greece when I took Sicily, and then I was able to concentrate on the kind of Greek peninsula. And what's fun is like the Brutii actually kind of conquered territories against Greece pretty fast, while the Julii for some reason just stayed in the south. So all these territories are all like Gaul, and it's weird that Gaul like expanded like crazy and nobody, like, they were unchallenged for like most of my playthrough. And again, yeah, not much change. Now I'm able to kind of have docks everywhere. The only thing I was able to do slowly was to gain this territory. What I did is that I kind of started building an army out here, and at some point I started building troops here. Here I can build quite a bit, and I started sending things over. And I think I just sent like a stack of 8 plus 4 that I had built here. I was able to take this town, and then I was able to hold all of these. And Palma again was my slinger factory production. Like, I kept on making them because you have no range option, which really bites you in the ass. Because you have this heavy infantry that are slow to move anyway. And so you kind of really don't have, not having, like, elephants are cool, but elephants can be scared off quickly. And they're costly to make, and they take 2 turns. So it's kind of like, you have to use them carefully. And yeah, it's funny because like not having range options really changes the way you play. You really cannot box in and wait for the enemy to come to you. You kind of have to like work around them. But yeah, so after I stabilized Spain by having 2 settlements, they were kind of like distracted. They tried to attack both of them, but they would throw me almost like full stack armies. Like this is like 15 full, which is, it's not bad. Like it's gonna, like, you can see like my numbers are going down just by erosion, just by like slowly like chipping damage. And when they send you a full stack army, sure, it's naked men, so you're gonna kill them, and you can kind of like sully out and punish them. But still, like, because you don't have phenomenal range, the problem is you sully out. Like, these guys have to get right, it's range 35. Like, these, I really didn't like them this playthrough, because you have to get right in the face of the enemy. While the slingers, at least, especially the Iberian slingers, the Balearic slingers, were able to, like, I was able to sully out, do some damage, and come in, right? But Spain, crazy enough, I don't remember if Spain and Gaul ever went to war. They were kind of like, just like, look at this, they basically have more than a full stack army and they kept on sending them down. So I had to basically, it was a lot of war of attrition. Like, this is like turn 50 and like nothing changed, right? And then slowly what happens is just, it is, what I realized toward the end is that that's how the campaign is. It is going to be a war of attrition. Like, you have to kind of hold back slowly and kind of build your economy and make sure you don't lose territories. Make them strong. I should have definitely separated better my military productions. I realized only late that, oh, I wasn't doing... I kind of didn't really believe in in building range, so I think I only did in Lilybam, which makes sense, but I kind of didn't separate my production lines cleanly, so I kind of ended up having too many settlements, having a middling production line rather than having a few, having a really good ones and then moving them around. I still think the problem, even with boats, you spend so much money maintaining your boats, because if you concentrate only the production of army in some settlements, you really run the risk of, okay, I'm spending my boats moving things around. And again, it takes a while. Like, this takes, what is this, 6? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5 or 6 turns. I mean, that's a lot. That is a lot to send something over. Like, that's still like 10% of how long. Like, after you play for 50 turns, it still takes you 1/10 of that to just send one army over. So that's kind of what I realized. And I kind of wish, like, also for Libya, I wish they made more. Maybe they could have made more, like, more territories here and divide Libya in 2, maybe. I don't know, like, do something where like this part of the world is more animated, because it's literally like 1/6 of the 1/9 of the map, right? Like, if you think of the map as this, like, and there's kind of nothing here, which, I mean, I guess it makes sense, it's desert, but the coast was more densely populated back then. But yeah, like, after I stabilized, basically my next goal was get Karalis back from the Julii. And again, that was tricky because at this point the Julii have, here was low, but what I realized as soon as I landed that they had ships, and that's when I realized late the mistake of, okay, I really need to have way more boats and control this. I kind of leave them peppered around and control the sea, because that would allow me to see what people are doing. I think I realized that when I dropped my troops off and there was like a stack of 6 here of the Julii. Let's do another 20 turns. Okay, here I was able to finally get back Carlis, and as you can see, like, these past 20 turns were the ones where things started changing. The economy started changing in my advantage, where like things were like, I have a lot of trades, as you can see. I took back Carlis, and that's where I should probably maybe break it. Let's break 1 turns in the middle, because I think that's where like really the campaign changed. Let's go to turn 60 maybe. Yeah, something happened here. And also, I want to point out, as you can see from my save, like, it's very... I saved a lot because, again, every turn was kind of imbalanced, so I wanted to make sure I wouldn't, like, you know, I wouldn't, like, lose something. And so I was actually saving... I found myself, rather, saving way more than I usually do for this game. So, yeah, nothing has changed much here. I think I was preparing the troops. Yeah, I'm preparing the troops to... So this is how, this is how... most of my playthrough was spent with basically getting boats with crazy experience and tried to keep them alive and repair them so that I could send them back out. And then, like, they would build their army. They would be able to get here in a turn because my boats were... there you go. You can already see I have a boat, a trireme at, like, gold tier level, which is crazy. I think they actually don't grow. I haven't seen 3 gold. I couldn't get... Like, I never got... 1. I got these to be gold, but always 1 gold, no matter how many ships I would sink at that point. I think it's just like you have to fight pirates or something. Like, I don't know how you get a boat to 3, because I kept on using these. Like, they were always the same because I was able to repair them. But yeah, so let's see maybe if we go in between again. Let's do 65. Let's do 66. Okay, so here I'm not done yet. I think I was building up here, yeah, because I'm like building up like crazy here. Yeah. Yeah, I was building, yeah.
Ships ready.
Yeah, this was like, dude, it was like continuous like that. And that's where I started getting boats just peppered all over, because it was the only way. Because the other thing the Julii do is that they control, is that suggest, okay? And they're able to get to Palma, and like if someone landed in Palma, I was like, I'm boned, because I'm using these to like send them around. I kept on like hiring. Every time I could go out and buy them, I would buy them, which is good. But then again, you're spending all this money maintaining armies, which you have to, because you have to use them. But I was always at the break-even point. It's kind of it really speaks highly on how well the game is balanced. It's at the break-even point of like you kind of can barely afford, because you don't have territories that you're leaving behind that are making money for you. All of them you kind of have to guard. You don't really have the money to have more than 1 army out, so you kind of just barely 1 army kind of scrapping around. And I think in general, I play conservatively for sure. Like, I always try to fill my cities. And I don't do it when I'm pretty safe, and the problem with Carthage is that you're never safe, because you're always playing on the coast. So you're always like... You have to leave those protected, and it's hard to push in because you are afraid to leave these settlements completely unguarded. Also, they're so far from your capital that they get really angry. So even with a full stack army, or almost, like, they're really sad. I think distance from capital is one of the most... yeah, squalor is high, and I think it was because again, I didn't have the money to like make... Yeah, the royal palace and whatnot, yeah. But yeah, not much has changed. I think everything happens in like a few turns. So we've seen turn 70. Let's go turn 80. Let's see. Yeah, here, that's after turn 70, as soon as I controlled Sardinia and Carlis, and I started controlling the sea by having a set of boats always here, a set of boats always here, and a set of boats always here. What kept on happening is that Rome kept on sending me boats, but they were like 2 or 3 maximum, and I would always tank them. What I realized is, in this entire campaign was like, oh, the Brudi haven't been attacking me, and that's because they actually concentrate a lot against Greece, which makes sense. So what it is that at some point, now I emptied my, not emptied, but like I halved my, the troops that I had here. I loaded half from each town, from each settlement on a boat, landed in South Italy and realized that both Croton and Tarentum were empty. And I just walked in. I hired a bunch of mercenary hoplites and I just walked in and this is where like the game completely changed. And that's where funny enough, the Scipios, I think the way they died, it was pretty funny. I think I basically kept on wrecking their economy so much that their town rebelled, their only town, they got kicked out, and I think that counts as them being, because it was the only settlement, they basically died. Because if you have one settlement, but that settlement rebels against you, I think you get kicked out, that settlement becomes rebel, and because you have no settlements, you're automatically dead. Yeah, you can see they're Romans, of course. Is it a Scipio? Let's see. Yeah, governor, why does it not say the name? Huh? Oh, I guess because now it's a rebel, that's why. Well, what is here? Servius Maxin. You don't have those on rebels? Oh, maybe this is the name? Weird. Okay. Maybe because they're rebels, they don't have like Roman names, even though it's a Roman rebel, but Roman rebel, say that 5 times fast enough. But yeah, basically most of the playthrough was this. Like once I was able to get South Italy, I was able to make pretty decent money because Tarentum, like these cities were like, I raised them to the ground and I got a bunch of money, which was the right move because at that point I didn't care about, like I could make troops no problem. It was money that I needed, so I got money out of it and I didn't want to risk rebellions because I couldn't afford losing territory, so I just raised them to the ground and rebuilt them with my economy. I just concentrated in having really good ports, like putting everything into the port, and that bumps up your trade. Like these cities are doing really well trade wise. Yeah, taxes are obviously good because the city grows, but trade is like really not bad for being like, if you consider against like Carthage that has been my hometown for this entire time, like trade of Tarentum is better. Like that's crazy. And that's because you are connected to more, you have more access to resources and whatnot. But yeah, no, that was kind of the turning point. Like this is what, like, I stalled for basically most of the game didn't change from like turn 15 to turn 50. After I got Corrales back and I started controlling this part of the Mediterranean, I started that's when like the campaign got unlocked, and like in the span of like 20 turns I was like, okay, now I can win it. But until then, like I had all these turns where like, man, every turn I was like scraping by money wise, barely able to like hold, but not barely, but I would hold back enemies. But like that's not good. You want to be on the attack, you don't just want to be on the defense. And the second half of the game is when Libya started attacking me, and they would attack me with just full stack armies, and Libya is not strong, but I have nothing here. I have like naked men with like pointed sticks, right? And I can make them from Carthage, but even then, like, you have to send them down. So I was actually still hiring a lot of people, but that's when I started developing the Sacred Band, which is, they're like awesome spearmen. They're basically the hoplites for all intents, like heavy hoplites for all intents and purposes. And that's when I was like, okay, the Scipios are out of the equation. Now I have to concentrate on Spain. And I think what happened is that Spain went around me and kind of started killing things down here. I don't remember really well, but basically it took a while to like, oh no, right, no, they didn't. I destroyed their ship, and that's when like I was getting distracted. I've never really played as Gaul or Spain, so I never really played in Spain. And I realized only late that like there was this settlement. So to me, I was like, oh, this is just the only Spanish settlement, which is crazy because you can see the map. I don't know, but the map doesn't update if you don't have map information. So sometimes that's wrong, right? And I'm like, oh, there's no way that Gaul didn't take those. Gaul had not taken any of those. And Yeah, so that took actually a while because again I couldn't just like send things out because Gaul had like full stack armies going around. Um, so that took a while to get unlocked. Let's see, turn 100. The turning point though was for sure when I started dominating the Mediterranean Sea, just because I started wrecking everyone and my boats kept on getting experience. All my boats now have like really good experience.
Ships ready.
Oh, there you go, double gold. Never mind. So I think you can just keep on doing it. Yeah, they were like, I mean, this is ridiculous, right? This is like 160, 220, 180 ships, mostly gold and or 3 silver. Like these are like these are like sea snipers basically. It's like a boat of marines basically right here against people with like boats with like paper boats, basically the equivalent. And I kept on keeping Rome at bay, which was really what was needed. And really the turning point was controlling the sea, this triangle here, like between Corralis, Carthage, and Lilybam. Controlling north of it so that I would block the Julii from expanding west and getting Palma out of me, or like being able to maybe land in Spain and create even more trouble. And then when I was able to get South Italy for myself, I was like, okay, this is done. This is now just a matter of kind of like expanding. And that's when I started going against Spain. And it just took me forever because this is like mountainous terrain. I think it takes just forever to move troops. I think it's like, yeah, it's like 4 turns to get here. So like I realized too late that there were these turns. I think this is my diplomat. Yeah, I was trying to buy them out and I think they just hate me too much.
Be quick.
Yeah,
Our
you
patience
can't
is
bribe
limited.
them, which kind of sucks. I think it's maybe you can't bribe the nations that you are. Is it because I was at war? Maybe, but that's strange. I'm sure I've bribed. You can bribe armies, but not settlements if you're at war. I'm not sure what the rules are, but I was hoping for that because like otherwise you have to march armies. And again, I had just taken these settlements. I was like, yeah, I need to regrow an army. So I was growing some here and I had to send it over, and it still took me like quite a few turns, even though at this point I kind of didn't care in terms of like losses because at this point my economy was doing well. So I could just like kind of afford to just take an army, auto resolve, and just lose everyone, and I don't care. But it still took a while. This is turn 100. Let's see. It took like another 15 turns, yeah. So let's see, maybe one in between. Yeah, so this is like, wow, that took 10 turns just to get a dude up here. And of course, like at this point, the game is over, right? Like I'm holding. Oh yeah, at some point, what happened is that I literally raised because Rome was trying to attack me. I'm like, why am I wasting my time against Rome? Let them keep Capua. They're never gonna come down here. What I did is that I think I destroyed everything inside. Maybe not. No, maybe I didn't. Okay, I think I just let them take it at some point. I was like, it's not worth. I think maybe I didn't raise it to the ground when I got it, and I was like, it's not worth keeping it, and I let then keep it so that because at this point I was like, okay, I clearly have enough settlements because I needed 15, and I know I had to take these 2. I was like, I have enough settlements, and the reason to like piss off Rome, and Rome is never gonna expand more than that. So yeah, at this point again, like things were going well, like the economy was in much better shape, and this is kind of toward the end for sure. And then that's the last one is just once I won. I did forget to mention one thing, which is, yeah, exactly. What I was doing also was like, okay, I need to get back to Libya. And so what I did is that I started kind of attacking all the. So that's what I actually did. I forgot to mention around turn 90. So it's still pretty late, maybe 80, but still pretty late. Because again, I had to produce troops for all these other endeavors, right? So you can't afford to walk your troops away because it takes so long to get there. Like, what is here, what is it, like 1 2 3 4 5 6, almost 6 turns to reach halfway through between the 2 sides of like the African territory, right? So like that took quite a while to achieve. And then like here I was kind of, I think this is their last, yeah, this is their capital. So I think it's because it's their, oh, that's why I got completely, I was like, oh, why can I not buy them out? And it's oh, you can bribe them.
Leave us be.
Yeah, you can't, even though I have 77,000. Yeah, because it's, they obviously they don't accept, like, I think it's because it's their last territory. Yeah, because the map is all wide. And that also took a while, because at some point they kept on attacking me. I was like, you know what, let me go on the attack. Once I had the bases here being regulated, I was like, okay, let me just like, or being what's it called, like kind of under control and with enough troops. I'm like, okay, I don't need to produce troops anymore. Here I'm kind of more like, I have enough troops here, I could send some people over. I'm like, let me make one big army. And what happened also is, halfway through my campaign, I really didn't have generals. I just didn't have generals. And so what kept on happening is that I literally did not have generals to like march enough armies. And if I took them out of the cities, they would, the loyalty of the city, or like the not the discomfort, what is it called, like the this one, what is it, public order, yeah, it would just fall through the floor. So that was also hard to manage. I think here, in fact, I don't have, oh, I even have a general, crazy, at 65. Yeah, and there's really no good way where you could place the capital. Maybe you could place it here in Serda, but that kind of sucks. Then kind of like all your territories are kind of far from the capital anyway, so I was like, okay, keep these are close to the capital and kind of try to maintain these. And but yeah, I was able to kind of kick Libya out of Africa, gain their territories, which are really not that good. So I think I ended up raising them to the ground. Yeah, I think I ended up cleaning them, because these are all level 1. Maybe I didn't do it with this one because I knew oh, but I definitely pillaged it because the population is super low. Yeah. And this, again, once I captured Rome, it was done. I knew it, because once I captured here and I took Capua back to and I mean, like, all these towns are like crazy. Yeah, they have like blacksmiths, so they can like give you good troops. It's just like, yeah, I mean, Capua better had a bunch of expansions, because, or like of expanded what's it called, like structures, because like that's the only thing the Scipias could put money in, right? Like, which is pretty crazy. And here you can see like the Julii really did not expand north, which is very, very strange for the Julii, right? And I really think the game is skewed toward attacking you as a player no matter what, unless you play as Egypt and like Gaul is not going to come and attack you, right, as Egypt. But it's probably thinking about it. So yeah, here I was expanding, but this is pretty much the end game. Like, I basically had beat Libya to I conquered basically all Spain. I could kick like these out in 2 seconds, right? Because it's like, it's super easy. It's just one settlement here. I basically wrecked them in Osca, and that was the end of the campaigns, because I had killed the Scipias pretty early and then conquered all the Spain territories. And I think this was actually a Spanish army that went became rebels when I captured their last settlement. And yeah, like, I am really enjoying the short campaigns because they really give you the challenge, but they're not too long. And honestly, at this point, right, at this point, it's over, right? Like, at this point I am in the situation that I described I wasn't in for most of my playthrough, which is what makes the campaign hard, which is, oh, I'm always surrounded, but now I'm not, right? Like, now I could leave like a few troops in Carthage, empty, maybe leave one in like Leptix Magna, and empty all of these, kick Gauls out of Spain, put like one heavy army here on the main pass, and things cannot go around, and like the eye doesn't use boats in a very aggressive way. Keep an army here. I could expand Red Gaul very easily because you get like a few settlements here. I could totally expand north. I mean, Rome, sure, it has a bunch of really good troops, but just this, yeah, just that, right? I just build a bunch of, I could build a bunch of siege weapons because at this point I have them. I can build heavy troops. I can go hire some range just to kind of balance them out and take them and do some damage there. But like, what I like about the short campaign is that it ends where a long campaign, I think starts becoming boring, because at this point also my economy is like, it's just going, like I'm just going now, I'm making 24k a turn, like that's, I can just buy settlements, right? Because at worst they ask you 15,000 when they ask you a lot, and I have 77 and I'm making 25 a turn. Like that's, at that point it kind of becomes like, once I think at some point I will do a long campaign as the Brutii, just because like I want to do one long campaign, because you have to, and you might as well do it with one of the Roman factions, right? Like I feel like I kind of have to do it at some point. But I'm really enjoying the short campaigns, because they're really, like, already toward the end. This was like, it was kind of like a slog, because like moving troops around here was still like took forever, and you still had to keep an eye out. It wasn't like as straightforward as like, oh, just like kind of go and like nobody cares, because Rome still attacks you, and they have good troops. Like you gotta be careful. Like if they send you, I remember a couple of fights when I took Capo back against, like when they have an army of Principes, and like then the Marius, or like whatever the event happens that they get the cohorts, like that becomes like, that's a tough army. Like you have to use your cavalry right, and you cannot get stuck in it or they wreck you. Like you have no range. Sure, I had like, the only advantage is that by then, one thing that I planned at the beginning that paid off was trying to rush for the Baal temple, which gave me the Sacred Band, because these guys are just like unstoppable. These are like heavy hoplites. So in a fight between Sacred Band and other people, they would come out almost unscathed, like almost untouched, which helped a lot. It helped a lot. But yeah, it was super interesting. Like I halfway through, I didn't know if I was gonna win, because I kept like my economy, I couldn't find a way out. It's kind of, you get into the loop of like, I can barely maintain what I have, and as soon as I try to make one army, my economy starts going down, so I can't afford it. And it's just, you have to kind of carefully manage your money, carefully manage your troops. I'm sure there's tons that could have done better, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm gonna do more of this. I think I have my eyes on Macedon, because Macedon is interesting. You have to like bounce the Greeks off of the island as fast as possible, because if they get to hoplites, you don't. And that's bad. I kind of want to do one as the Seleucid Empire too, because that's also really hard, because you have Egypt in the south, and you have to like, I feel like the strategy there is not go to south, just kind of hold like Jerusalem and like Sidon or Damascus, yeah. Damascus, Sidon, and is this Jerusalem? No. Yeah, try to get there, but like I think hold these immediately. Try to hold all of these, and then try to kind of like, because you're surrounded as Seleucid Empire. You have Parthia, which is not super strong, but it bothers you. They have good what is it, horse archers. Then you have Pontus, which whatever. And yeah, it's yeah. So I definitely want to do one as Macedon and one as the Seleucid Empire. What else I had my eyes on? I would like to do one as maybe the Germanic tribes or Gaul, one of the two. And then I think I would definitely like to do at some point a long Roman campaign, and I think I would do Brutii, because they're just awesome. Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan at least. But we'll see. Definitely want to do Macedon, because Macedon is, I like playing with the Greeks too, because it's just like, yeah, it's just, I love their army composition, and yeah. I should try playing with some of the ones that are less kind of common. I definitely should try see if I can make a playthrough with those, and yeah. But yeah, there's still a lot of campaigns in the long one, and there's actually this is the remastered, obviously, and only toward the end you can see I was starting to have now a lot of like, I think all of a sudden what happened, all the people, because it took about like 50 turns, which is, or like it took about like 35 or 36 turns. Yeah, 36 turns, which is basically how long it takes for kids that are born to come to age and be, I think you have to wait until, 16. Okay, so yeah, like it took a while where like my family was having babies, but none of them were coming to age until all of a sudden a few came to age, and then I had like a bunch of like military commanders, and yeah, nobody great. That's why my commanders didn't have like a lot of experience. Only some did, which were the older ones. But yeah, it was really fun playing as Carthage, and definitely like the army composition is tough. I mean, this game is like when you leave Greece or Rome, it gets hard. Like that's why I would like to do Gauls, because I feel like Gauls is like you don't have anything. You have a bunch of naked men going around Rome, and like sure you can try conquering Spain, I guess, but that's still not easy. Like Gauls, you really don't have. Let's see, can I get something to see here? I'll go to the main menu, but yeah. So we'll see. We'll see next time. But yeah, sorry that I kind of was able to record it going, let's say, and that's a bummer, because that's half of the Total War fun. I think also I have the Warhammer games that I really want to play, and I think I might do a campaign of that as well, because those are fun too. So yeah, but yeah, sorry that again it was just a quick recording of an entire campaign, but I thought it was worth sharing because it was really interesting, and it really played very differently, and it really speaks highly of how varied this game is. Like you just play different faction, it plays completely differently, and I really invite everyone who likes this game to play as Carthage, because at the beginning you're gonna be challenged. At the beginning it's hard, it's definitely hard, but it's worth it. It's really fun. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.